I don't care what he says, officer. He is clearly violating Section 3B of the Covenants. I want him arrested immediately for trespassing.
The tow truck's amber lights bounced off my front gates at 6:12 a.m. on May 3, 2024, like a cheap disco in the cold morning air. I stepped outside barefoot and smelled wet asphalt and burnt coffee from my travel mug, and my stomach dropped. My car was already half lifted. A deputy stood by my mailbox with his hands on his belt, looking bored and annoyed. He said the HOA filed an emergency violation and said my vehicle was blocking the sidewalk. Except my tires weren't even touching the curb. Karen from 2 houses down stood on her porch in a pink robe, filming me like I was a zoo animal. She yelled over the engine, "You can't park like that, sweetheart. Welcome to consequences." I jogged to the deputy and pointed at the empty sidewalk, the neat strip of concrete so clean it looked unused. I said, "Sir, it's not blocking anything." He shrugged and showed me his screen. Complaint came in at 5:58 a.m. Board says it's urgent. Then my phone buzzed. A neighbor texted me a screenshot of a Facebook post with my full name, my home address, and a photo of my front door. Caption read, "Mansion owner thinks rules don't apply. Vote me onto the HOA board so we can clean up this street." My cheeks burned. That's when I realized this wasn't about a sidewalk. It was about power. Later that day, I said it out loud to myself, like it was a headline. Karen doxed my mansion HOA board seat over a sidewalk dispute, had no idea I am their prosecutor. By 9 a.m., I was in the HOA office with my jacket still smelling like morning air and truck exhaust. I tried to keep calm. I asked for the towing order and the violation log. The manager wouldn't even look up from her keyboard. She said, "Submit your appeal online. The board will review in 30 days. I said, "My car is gone right now." The manager blinked slow and pointed at a printed sign that said "No walk ins." Out in the parking lot, 2 neighbors avoided my eyes like I had a contagious rash. One older guy whispered, "Just pay it. She ruins people." That's when it hit me. This wasn't a normal Karen tantrum. The whole block was scared of her, and the board was letting her drive. I went home, paid the tow fee to get my car back, and promised myself I would stay lawful. No shouting matches. No accidents. Just proper channels, like a grown adult with a job and a license to keep. I sat at my kitchen island, the big one everyone thinks means you're rich and happy, and I felt small anyway. My hand shook as I scrolled through the doxing comments. People laughed. People guessed my salary. People said I'd probably cheat taxes. Karen replied to them with little smiley faces. So I started building my case the boring way, the way that wins. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. I saved every HOA notice. I grabbed screenshots with timestamps. Then I opened a clean notebook and wrote one line that made me breathe again: "You don't beat bullies with noise, you beat them with paper." On May 6, 2024, I filed a public records request with the city and the county. Not for drama. For proof. I asked for every police call tied to my address and every complaint Karen filed about sidewalks, parking, and suspicious persons in our neighborhood. 3 days later, an email hit my inbox at 7:41 p.m. The file landed with 63 pages. My eyes widened as I read it. Karen had called the police 9 times in 6 months, always about small things, always with big claims. Stranger on my lawn. Vehicle blocking emergency access. Loud argument. Trespasser near her mailbox. And there it was in plain black text, like a punch. Timeline item 1 April 5 at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. It wasn't even about me. She had tried to get a delivery driver detained because he set a box on her steps. I leaned back and said, "Wow. She's not just rude. She's reckless. The HOA board meeting was on May 14, 2024, at 7 p.m. in the clubhouse that always smells like lemon cleaner and old carpet. Karen showed up early in a crisp blazer, holding a stack of flyers with her face on them. She smiled at me like we were friends. She said, "I hope you're ready to apologize." I nodded and said, "Oh, I'm ready." The room filled up fast, and I noticed phones already raised. People were waiting for a fight. When it was my turn, I didn't rant. I set my binder on the table with a thud and slid copies down the line. Then I put up a simple poster board with dates and screenshots. I explained, slow and clear, that the tow claim was false, and the doxing was documented. Then I said the one sentence that made the room go quiet: patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. Karen's smile fell off her face like a mask. She sputtered, "I was protecting the community." I replied, "Great. Then you won't mind the investigator from the City Code Office reviewing your complaints and the HOA's towing contracts." And right on cue, a uniformed inspector stepped in with a badge and a calm face, like he'd been invited for dessert. After that, the night turned into a storm Karen couldn't control. The inspector asked for the HOA records on towing and violations, and the board suddenly looked like kids caught cheating on a test. Someone in the back laughed when Karen tried to grab her flyers and hide them under her purse. Another neighbor whispered, "She posted your address? That's insane." Phones kept filming. By the next morning, my neighborhood group chat was exploding with screen recordings and comments like, "Finally someone stood up to her." The HOA president called an emergency vote to suspend Karen's board candidacy pending review. 2 weeks later, on May 28, 2024, the county confirmed an inquiry into repeated false reporting and harassment complaints tied to her name. I didn't take her down with tricks. I simply handed the right people the right facts, and then I stepped back, because I know how conflicts work, and I follow the rules even when I'm mad. By June 10, 2024, the HOA sent a written apology, waived my fees, and updated their process so one person couldn't trigger emergency towing without proof. Karen got a no-contact order through the proper court process after she posted one more warning about me online, and the judge was not amused. She stopped showing up outside in her robe. She stopped filming people's driveways. The sidewalk stayed empty and clean, just like before, except now it felt like it belonged to everyone again. One evening, a neighbor I barely knew walked over with a plate of warm cookies and said, "I'm sorry we didn't speak up sooner." I took the plate, felt my throat tighten, and said, "It's okay. We're doing it now." Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.